So what's up, man? How you been? What's going on?
I got a question because you got a mic in front of you. Is my audio good with you guys?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, freak. This is awesome then. I got some cool news. I think Mona told you we booked another movie.
Another movie?
Another movie.
How many movies are you booking?
We have now 3. We're going to be finishing up one with Steven Soderbergh here in the next couple weeks.
Oh,
I know,
that's
right?
big.
It's kind of cool because not since Gladiators or Fox when I was doing Battle Dome were we at this level, and now it's like Steven Soderbergh, which is the top.
That's awesome, man.
Top, and then this next project is with Jennifer Fox is the main producer, who is like George Clooney's partner, and this one's gonna be.
That's amazing. The Steve Soderbergh one, is it a series? Is it like a drama or is it a comedy? What is it?
What did they call it in IMDb when they launched it? They called it. It is a drama. It's an extreme drama. I play Stephen Dwarf's brother, and it is.
That guy is crazy.
You know what's cool
In a
though?
good way.
It's cool because I'm a big guy, and so when I met him, and everybody was talking about his attitude and stuff like that, it wasn't like that with me. It's like it goes back to that, like, college days or whatever. The big guy, and he's like, dude, this is cool, man. This is great. And then also the character is very Mice and Men. Remember the movie, the book of Mice and Men? So he has to really kind of protect me in this because I'm naive, I guess would be the term. Very naive, and he's supposed to love me and all this and that. And then the flips happen in the movie, and it's incredible.
Mike, did you make an appearance on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I did.
How was that, man? That's a good show.
Dude, it was as great as it was to film. It was cooler to sit back and joke around with Danny DeVito and the whole cast. I mean, you get to sit back and talk with Arnold, and knowing Arnold or these guys that have been legends in the industry at that pinnacle level. To be able to sit back and talk with like Danny DeVito about acting or anything in life, and just being around somebody like that, it takes you up to another level. For me, at least, it does. Just because you see the inside about how fragile life is, and it's all about living the dream. It really is. It's not about working the 9 to 5. It's about living the dream. And if you're living the dream, appreciate it and really stay in it.
Absolutely.
But they were
so
fun.
It's funny. You mentioned Stephen Dwarf, right?
Yeah.
An actor. And you mentioned he was nice to you. So it's actually a funny conversation, right? So obviously you got a lot of muscle, right? You can't obviously deny that, right? So do you feel like it's in a man's nature to like size each other up, right? And then do you feel like the respect is given automatically if they feel inferior to you in certain situations?
I wouldn't say inferior. That's such a strong word. I would say when you can see somebody's body of work by just visually looking, I think that's impressive to another guy. And especially a guy his age that, tries to stay healthy, tries to stay relevant and stuff. And then I'm there and he's like, geez Louise, that's some time in the gym. I think that's a definite thing. It's just, I think health and fitness or anybody in shape, if somebody else can look at that and go, wow, that's a lot of time in the gym, it's a lot of eating right, that's a lot of cool stuff, I respect that. And that's how it came across from him. It was an instant thing where, I'm told one thing about his attitude, and then I meet him and I'm like, he's the nicest guy in the world to me. Sure.
But I was more referring to actually, okay, maybe not inferior, but like, they feel like you're bigger and stronger. Therefore, I was talking to actually, I don't know, you know Tony Hughes, obviously, right? You know that guy. So I interviewed him like a while ago, and he was saying, I'm an alpha male. When I walk into the room, I know exactly who's gonna basically. It's like an animalistic. He kind of refers to it as the animalistic. It's nothing to do with the body of work. It's really just I'm bigger and stronger than you, and you're gonna submit to me without saying it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, but I've been around monsters. But I've been around monsters that are physically monsters, and then I've been around some guys that were the baddest dudes you ever meet that are 160 pounds. So it really is, you know, because I competed in martial arts, and so I saw what an actual technique and a savage mind and heart can do to a person. And I love Tony. Tony's hilarious. I think he's hilarious, and he's a good follow for anybody on social media. But yeah, there's a definite difference between if you see that guy. What do they call it? They call it. Well, Michael Beach said this the other day to me. It's just. I understand what you're saying though. When you walk into a room and you're a monster of a man, people kind of respect that.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, speaking of like, I've been watching a lot of those arm wrestling guys on social media, right? Because they look big, obviously, you know what I'm saying? But they're like, some of them don't look that humongous, but they beat the guys like 3 times their size. I mean, like, what goes into arm wrestling? Like, it's obviously strength, right? But like, they beat some
Strength.
muscle guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of strength, and it goes back to what I always talk about, connective tissue, but also leverage. The way they do it, and they use the whole body to move through it. And you were saying that some of them look huge. Man, they're monsters in person. Like Devin, just a huge. I'm a good size. I'm a gladiator. I'm a 6'3", 300-pound guy, but this guy's like 6'6", and just his limbs are so long and hands. It's an impressive thing. I don't mess with it though. I don't mess with those guys.
They look crazy. I mean, I don't know. I think it's definitely some like it's skills built over the years. They know how to like, they know how to pull it the right way. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about that because in health and fitness, it seems like a lot of people listen to are the guys that did the schooling for physical therapy or kinesiology or anything like that. And it's like, I like the guys that have the mix of that plus the engineering. Because the engineering because there's such a difference. And I think arm wrestling, that's an engineering degree right there, man. Your leverage against another guy's leverage is not just arms. Even though, like to the beginner, they think it's arms, but it's the whole body they're torquing. I mean, they're just like, that whole thing is locked in. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So speaking of engineering, I wanted to ask you if like the method of training, as well as how you train and where you train, did it evolve over the years? Like what year did you start working out? It was 80s?
1979, 1978.
Okay. So from that point on to now, like, do you feel like the training has evolved, or is it basically the same motions? Just it's the same exact thing, because I hear different opinions on that.
I think it's changed. I think the most part that it has changed is with studying. Like back in the 80s, when I was lifting with the greatest powerlifters in the world, these guys were all about the forced reps, going until you're fatigued, pushing it to that 100% level. And I think it's clear now that is not as necessary. And so something I thought about is that weightlifting in the 70s and 80s seemed to deteriorate people and break them down over time. And now we know enough and understand enough to where weightlifting enhances and gives you longevity. And so that's the biggest change. So the biggest change would be understanding that 80% your effort in the gym is better than 100%. That forced reps aren't necessary to, and I'm talking to the mass, I'm talking to the very large percentage, because I do believe going to 100% for somebody that wants to be the champion has to go to that level. But if you're just trying to create a physique and trying to be healthy and trying to do this for a long period of time, that's the biggest changes. The biggest changes is being smart in the gym, stimulate, don't annihilate, Lee Haney, and not pushing the forced reps, the drop sets, the complete destruction of the body. And that's what it was in the 80s. In the 80s, it was who could train more, better, harder, faster. And now it can all slow completely down.
Interesting.
Did you notice that though? Did you notice that as well, or?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I witnessed the 90s primarily, or like, I guess, late 90s, but I don't know. I just don't have enough, I guess, expertise to really know, But I feel like some people complain the other way around. They feel like the older guys are healthier than the newer guys, Well, we're talking about bodybuilding right now, We're talking about like pros. We're not talking about.
If you want to cut it down to just the pros, I mean, I was trying to explain it to the masses that I think that if you want to do weightlifting and do it for a long period of time, tone it down a bit, come down a notch. And I do agree with you. If you're going to be the champion, if you're going to be like the next Nick Walker or somebody that's just a beast, then you kind of have to go to that 100%. Mostly because it's also a mental state that you can't leave anything mentally in the gym. But again, I go back to the point of that I understand Wolff's Law now, or I understand Davis' Law now, where the consistency of it, instead of the extreme stress of it, is better. I know it's a little deep. It's a little deep, but
it's crazy you mentioned Nick Walker. I feel like he's one of those guys right now that gets like the most, how do I say it properly? Like, I don't know. He's embraced. He's a top contender, right? But it's like, I want to say politically correct. Like, everybody's saying, he's unhealthy, or he's looking unhealthy, or something will happen. I mean, people are saying, that's what I'm saying. People are saying that, which is obviously he's trying to win a title, right?
Don't they say that
you
about...
get the double-edged sword,
Don't they say that about every bodybuilder? I understand that they're saying
right now, yeah. Right now, a lot, for sure. But not everybody, Like, some people like Dexter Jackson he's always, like, getting praised for him being the smarter guy, like you mentioned, Maybe it's just a perception, but they always consider Dexter Jackson smart, and some people they consider to be a little reckless, but that's obviously comes with the territory, right? No matter what you do, if you're going for that ultimate prize, people are going to say that,
Yeah, I think Nick is just a massive, I mean, look at those guys when they were guest posing a couple weeks back. That's just,
yeah.
Those are a mountain of men on stage. And so I could see the majority of society going, that's unhealthy because weight is weight.
Right.
So I see that point, but I'm going off of the aspect of, listen, is bodybuilding the healthiest thing in the world? Well, if done right, I think it is. I think it's incredibly healthy, more than any other sport. But if you do it to the level of where you have to be the very best and appease those judges, now you're riding the line. And I mean, we know that. We've been in this industry long enough that there's a lot of guys that are riding the line because that trophy means everything to them. And the appreciation of winning that means more than anything else.
Sure. But you've made a decision, right? Were you at crossroads at one point in your career where you kind of like, I guess you could have went after Olympia, right, obviously, but you chose to do other things and focus on other priorities.
I had the best guy in the world on my side. I had Joe Weider on my side. And my crossroad was, hey, when I get to that time, when I get to that stage where I want to push this to the next level, I'll do it. But I come from a very educated parents where they kept teaching me to ask the questions and study it. And I realized that even though I was training with Tom Plaz and I could beat him or others on the weights that were moving and the rep range, the muscularity.
You beat Tom Plaz?
Yeah. That's who was my training partner when I first got here.
Wow.
And nobody trained harder than Tom. Nobody. Even to this day, nobody trained harder than Tom.
His videos look painful to watch, actually.
They were so fun, though. Man, when I talk about the mindset, it was 3-hour leg workouts, and it was the greatest thing in the world. Wow. And it was great for me being 20 years old, 20 years old, training with Tom Plaz, coming from a powerlifting background. I was like, this is the best, this is the most fun I've ever had. That's where I felt truly alive.
Wow.
I didn't care if we were doing 30s on squat or whatever it was. It was just, that battle, that mental battle, that set me up for the world. But that being said, I couldn't get the muscularity that they had. Didn't matter that I was stronger, could do more reps, didn't matter. So I knew in time I'd have to do other stuff. But then I had my talk with Joe Weider, and we're sitting there and we're talking after we just got shot. There was like 5 of us guys. The Olympia just happened, and he shot out the other guys before me. And he said, I want you to wait until the end. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, so this is where I see you. And this is my recommendation to you. What you're doing, don't change. You're winning, because this is what the majority of society would want to be like. They don't want to be like that. That's a small percentage. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I love training more than anything else, more than competing, I love the journey and training. And so he said basically to me that moment it clicked that I can continue to do what I'm doing the way I'm doing it and make a life out of this. Where if I go another way, okay, maybe I win or something, but it's a short-lived journey. So that's what Joe Weider's advice right there, and anybody else out there, just and you tell me this. To be the very best at something, you're going to push the lines. That's just a given. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it to chase a gold, the biggest prize in the world, and you're going to get appreciation. Is the appreciation truly what you need in life, or the appreciation for what you're doing yourself? So I love lifting more than I love being Mr. Olympia. And I got to do this now for 45 years. And so that to me played out bigger to me more than the people going, hey, you're not Mr. Olympia. That must suck. No, I'm pretty good, man. You see my point though? So,
absolutely.
So where that person that says I need the trophy has to push it. And that's the dangerous part.
Do you think if you would have dedicated, you would have won the Olympia?
I don't know, man. Those guys are, it's the combination of how your body reacts to things, how you grow, and injuries can happen to anybody, you know? And so it's, I think I would have done.
But do you think you had the genetics, the frame, you know what I mean? Like the way you are genetically, and do you feel like you could have?
Yeah, I would have crushed. I would have been a monster on stage, you know? But again, I think it would have been short-lived. You know, I won the universe, I won all that. I did great for what I wanted, and to make my career great. But it's like,
sure,
man, I kind of like the crossroad I went. Mm-hmm. You know, because I gave up a couple things, you know, because I was an All-American football player. Gave up on that. Could I have gone further? I don't. I'm really kind of sitting here today going, wow, I get to do another movie. I get to do another thing.
Of course. Oh, no, you made the right decision.
And I'm playing it, you know, and it's not just I'm doing another movie, but I'm playing a 35-year-old in a movie. And I'm jacked. Wow. And it's like, okay, so things are kind of cool. Things are kind of fun. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's my first, I think back, and it's 1990, my first movie was Death Becomes Her with Bruce Willis. And I'm sitting there thinking,
that's a classic right there.
32 years later, I'm still doing these movies and stuff. And so I've always idolized like Tom Cruise on how he's been able to, you know, continue his career and continue to be at the pinnacle. And that's the thing. It's like I was in the magazines in 1987. I'm on the cover of these magazines now in 2022.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot.
Not a lot at all. Probably just you, most likely.
Still reverse benching 500. You know, it's. I've been able to bench 500 since I was 18, so it's kind of cool.
Wow. But back to what I was saying. Do you think the evolution of training? Do you think things change, or is it the same thing? I know like the machines got better, and like, but once you learn the basics of how to train, right? Is it just basically the same thing? I was talking to actually somebody the other day, right? They go to this really fancy gym, I think in Florida, and they're like, we got this new machine. There's like some kind of like do a leg press. You're like almost upside down, like some crazy stuff. New technology, super expensive. But he was like, what's the point of all that? It's the same thing as the other regular leg press. So basically what I'm saying is, did it really evolve a lot, or is it the same basics, just, you know, repeated?
Hasn't changed too much except the percentage and the intensity. Or understanding the rep range. We understand rep range, I think, 10 times better today than we did then. But I think there was some bright people back in the day that talked about training that nobody really listened to. So you talk about the gym is supposed to be doing the least amount of work possible, but still get better. That's technically what the gym's about. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would rather do.
But you're just so in New York right now. I hear the streets. But I don't think people hear that. I don't think the people that are just starting the health and fitness, I have to go to the gym for this period of time if I want to be this great. No, you don't. And so I think if you study the differences between how we trained in the 80s and how you train or should train today, it's a huge change.
So training legs for 3 hours with Tom Plaza was overkill?
Overkill. Except, here's the side note, and this is what we're talking about, the mental setup it set for me. You do a leg workout with Tom Plaza, the world can't crush you anymore. You own the world. There's nothing. You see what I'm saying? And so I did, as a young pup, need to train with Jeff Magruder, Doyle Kennedy, and see a 900 deadlift at 14 years old. Oh, this is possible? This is feasible? Okay, I can do that and maybe even look better doing it. So I needed that mental stimulation to I mean, you know this. I mean, we see people come into the industry and they crack. But we see people in life. But let's stay with the health and fitness world. It is a lot of pressure to come in here and keep going and keep going and keep going. And that me being set up around those greats like Lee Haney, around Tom Plaza, around Arnold in those years, oh, it was awesome. I was set mentally. But the workouts have changed. Be smart about the training. Bring it down. You don't need to go to that extreme amount. You don't. To build the body, you don't.
What about nutrition? Did nutrition evolve a lot in comparison to the training? Because it seems like that part seems like it gotten smarter, right? Or no?
Again, I think for some reason, fats have come into a lot of play for the majority of society now, compared to where fats was nothing back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. It was our carbs and protein, we just stayed focused on that. It seems there's two things here. So fats have come into play quite a bit. And then the argument of fats. And then also carbohydrates are getting a bad rap now, which I see is a fault or a negative thing. I don't think they should get a bad rap. I think carbohydrates are one of the main sources that has kept me in the game. And then protein's always been protein. We get our protein in, but that's how it was in the 80s. But today it's a lot of people are just really incorporated in the fats. That's how it's changed. And then it seems as though we have more issues. Everybody nowadays has issues with eating. Stomach problems, and where I never even heard of that stuff back in the 80s.
Well, it's funny. I feel like the mainstream consumers are being programmed. Like when you go to the store, right? Protein is always like packed with protein, right? They put that right on the big letters on the cover, right? And less carbs is conditioned to be the best. And then when you see it says low carb, right? So it's like, I think late 90s did that with the Atkins coming in the game, right? And he kind of changed that whole perception. I feel like it's been, now people do consider in the mainstream America or like the world, whatever, like that low carb is good, high protein is good, right? I mean, that's what's going on.
I think that's one of the biggest, as soon as I see somebody that was competitive or getting older, and as soon as they make that step away from carbohydrates, for me, all I've seen is a decline. I've seen a decline in the body.
But you eat healthy carbohydrates, obviously, right? You eat like clean. Everything's clean. Everything you do is.
Yeah, but everybody around me or everybody I work with always makes sure to have the carbohydrates in there. There's again, remember the mindset I said about when I was 20? Obviously, to be still in the game today, I still want that tussle. I still want to push it. I still want to go through that transformation. I'm not ready to give up yet. And it seems as though when people get to that stage where they go, okay, I'm just getting rid of carbs. I'll just keep the protein in. I'll do cardio every single day. I'll train 6 days a week. I just see a decline and a rapid decline in their bodies. You don't notice that?
I guess so. You're right. Yeah, but do you eat the same way as you ate 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like the same exact diet, or did you adjust something as you got older, as you gotten older?
Adjust it because the body changes. Because I'm mid-50s now, so I eat differently. But I got to go off season this last year after this movie, and I got to really incorporate different stuff like the higher fats, some better carbohydrates instead of always being in a deficit. And I could feel the body heal in that off season compared to for a lot of the guys, mostly nowadays, because I think you agree that social media makes guys stay in shape 24/7. They always got to be lean. They always got to be lean, and so many youngsters miss out on that growth spirit, that growth factor at that young teenage years into their mid to late 20s. They miss all that because they're always in a deficit instead of putting that size on, putting that strength on.
What's the easiest way to know when you're in a deficit or not? Like, how do you know exactly where you're in a deficit? How do you calculate that?
Easiest way would be if you're continuously dropping the workouts, you're not getting stronger, fatigue. Hunger doesn't technically mean it. My girl's always hungry, and she eats more than most guys I know. So it's not that. It's just how the body functions and burns. And so if you're not getting, obviously recovery is a good sign. You wake up the next day and you just beat down again. There should be a good, and that's what one thing they talk about is like, where's that middle ground? Where do you walk the tightrope? And I think you just, if you're going to be in a surplus, be in a surplus. You don't need to be crazy, but get in there and put some weight on your body, fill out the muscles, get recovered, put it on. It's easy to lose fat. It's hard to gain muscle.
Some people struggle with fat though. I would say majority of Americans struggle with that.
Do they struggle with fat, or is that another thing that you're saying mentally they struggle with fat?
Probably both. Oh, I don't know. Probably mental. Mental is a big part of it, of course. Dieting is not easy for a lot of people.
Diet is not easy. And I'm not saying it is. Dieting is freaking hard. But again, you've got to accept where you're at and what you want to be. And that's just it. And there's so many studies now too showing people in a deficit not eating great food but still losing weight. There's so many studies that show that if you're in a surplus, you're going to put on some size. You're in a deficit, you're going to drop weight. And that's pretty darn simple.
Mike, what did you take on red meat? Because I know you like steak, right?
I love steak.
Obviously. You love steak.
Steak.
So
the superfood.
Yeah, I know, right? I love steak too. But do you like cut down on it? And like, what's your rule on red meat? Do you eat like steak every week? Only once a month? You know what I mean? Like, what? Because there's been a lot of studies also that's not very good when it comes to red meat. So I want to get your take on that.
I am a freak when it comes to red meat, and I'm one of these guys like Stan Efford and stuff. This red meat is a superfood. It really is. It's amazing. And then we got the hookup with Piedmontese. So if I'm dieting down, they have such lean red meat that I could still diet down on red meat. That's when I feel totally recovered. We never really get sick in this household, which is great too. And then the people I work with, it's just the recovery on them and the changes they make. And I'm not talking about 20-year-olds. I'm talking about people I work with that are 50 and 60 years old, 70 years old, that are making changes. And they're going away from that whole deficit all year long to eating again, feeding the body to recover.
So you feel great with red meat. So you eat it basically every week, right?
Every day.
Every day. Wow.
Every day, yeah.
So how do you feel about? So maybe do you think it's the same thing for everybody, or is it the situation where actually maybe your genetics tolerates red meat as opposed to, because you hear a lot of stories, right? People say I stopped eating red meat, I feel so much more energy, I feel great. I don't know how long that lasts for, but like you hear a lot of these stories, right? I'm sure you've heard it.
I hear a lot of those stories. I hear the hey, I fasted yesterday, I'm so clear-minded, I'm focused, I'm energy, and I've been doing this long enough to see every diet's great. And it's a great mentally thing. That's, again, it goes back to the mental state. There's got to be other factors instead of just the one on you emotionally that day. Because if the body doesn't change over the next 12 weeks and you're doing that plan and you're not getting stronger and better, you're going backwards. And that's a tough thing for someone to go, well, I felt great for the first 3 weeks on this fasting diet, no carbs, no wheat. Great. All right, now let's analyze what's going on with the body. Are you getting stronger? Is the body recovering off of this? Those are kind of the things that I would look at as well, because I believe if there's a 70% range, so everybody's looking for the 100, right? I want to be 100% healthy. Okay, well, if that means that you're in a deficit and your body's functioning correctly, great, but then your mind's not functioning over here and you're not getting stronger. So in a year, technically, you're going to be weaker and bone density is going to be down. So you're dropping. So I would rather be, all right, I'm eating a good amount of calories. I am recovering. I am getting stronger. You see, the factors are all the way across the board. Instead of going, hey, I fasted yesterday. I feel mentally great. All right, keep that up.
You should be the face of red meat in America.
I'll take that.
Everybody's talking about red meat constantly. You're one of the only people that stands up for it.
And I'm cool with that. And I'm cool with that in about 20 years, because now they're finally getting studies now about rep range, about intensity that I was talking about 30 years ago. And now they're finally catching up. And so I'm okay that they'll catch up in another 20, 30 years when they finally realize that you can't run away from carbs completely. You can't do that. You got to be able to feed the body with that. You got to use some healthy fats in there, yes, and you got to do the proteins. Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. Let's just back for 1 second. I just want to recap. The first part of the conversation was about walking into the room being a big monster. Obviously, appearance is a big thing in today's world. But again, I believe walk humbly, be smart, be polite. Intensity, we talked about what was the training back in the days in the 70s and 80s and today. The changes, I think, again, go back to the intensity. I think you need to train smarter, not so much harder, even though I think harder will set up a mindset that will take you to the next level. But again, if you want to train for a long period of time, the intensity, bring it down a little bit. Looks, obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so I know that right now with the whole fat or skinny or anything like this, that it's all beautiful. It is true to somebody out there, you are beautiful. My concern is, again, healthy is a very important part of that. And just chalking up to someone's going to find me beautiful is fine for you, but I just wish you would take pride in your health itself. And that's going to set you up to win in life, I think. Also, it just sets you up to love yourself even more, in my belief. Nutrition statements, again, eat healthy, be smart. I think consistency is more important than anything else. The best you can do each day for over a long period of time is going to set you up to win and be healthy. Thanks so much for watching the show. Please subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.